Come on, internet. Hello, Louisville. Guess who's coming to dinner? Hey, it's Monday. Guess who's coming to dinner? I am your host, Janis Carter Miller. And I'm going to tell you, I'm just as thrilled as punch pie, sweet potato pie, that I've got a classmate from high school, a college classmate. You know, when your friends, leave the nest and go out and do great things, you have to kind of say, yeah, we went to school together. You're proud. In Louisvillians, we have that Muhammad Ali spirit that we all think we're the best at whatever it is we do over here, honey. Let me tell you. So don't get it twisted. Nothing has changed. We just are seasoned now. And so today I'm bringing a friend of mine from Shawnee. I think we went to junior high as well as high school together. I'm going to introduce to some and present to others my classmate, Mr. Bruce Johnson. What's up, Bruce?
Janice, how you doing? How you doing? You haven't changed. You haven't changed at all.
Really? Look, I wore my glasses instead of being glamorous. I wore my glasses because I know you remember that I wore glasses in school.
I wore my glasses so I could look smart.
You were smart in school. You were very smart, but you were always I used to make fun of your voice.
Really?
And your voice turned out to be your gift, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. I'm blessed.
Mine turned out to be my gift, and I didn't know it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So tell me about. I'm just trying to figure out where I want to start. Okay, so we went to high school together. We went to Kentucky State, same time, and then you moved. You left Kentucky State and went to school in Northern Kentucky. So let's pick up from there.
Okay, so I was at Kentucky State for 3 years. Like a lot of us, first in my family to go to college. I didn't even know college was an option, but
right.
Yeah,
I didn't think about it either, really.
Absolutely, and it was a great move for me. I mean, it was a chance to grow up. It was a chance to continue relationships with great friends like you. There were a group of us from Louisville. A few from Shawnee. Others from Central, Mail. And that sort of thing. So I was at Kentucky State for 3 years, and not on my, saying my last year, I struggled. I was out of money. I didn't want to borrow any more money, and working and trying to go to school at the same time was just wearing me out. And so I'd already started doing radio. I had worked at the Frankfort, Kentucky radio station, WFKY. Okay. And during the summers, I worked at WLOU, and that's really where I got introduced to radio. I worked with Daddy D, who was Bill Summers,
Bill Summers. I was going to say, you came under Bill Summers.
He hired me. He was paying me $100 a week. I thought that was a lot of money, too. I was the morning drive guy. He put me on in the mornings. And so, he really treated me as a grown-up. And, that's the thing about Black radio. It gave us a chance, a shot when nobody else would. And so I learned the craft there. That's also where I started, reading the news, okay? Because you had to do everything. You had to sign the station on the air, which I could never get right. I would come from the streets partying on Friday, and I'm supposed to sign us on the air on Saturday, and I could never... I'd go ahead and sit in my car to see if I got us on the air or not. But at any rate, so worked at WLOU. And so when I left Kentucky State, I had gotten a job at WCIN in Cincinnati. I knew Cincinnati because I'd gone to high school there for 2 years. So, and then from there, I just walked into a TV station, one time, and they were expanding and looking to get a little diversity and hire some people of color and some women. There were no women. So I became the first Black guy they ever hired, as a
Oh,
reporter.
wow.
And I was really a
Mhm.
reporter trainee. And they hired 2 white women at the same time. So I knew I was going to finish undergrad school. I promised my mother. More importantly, I promised myself I was going to get that undergrad degree. So I started going to school full time at Northern Kentucky University, and I finished up there in no time, and then went on to grad school at the University of Cincinnati full time. So I was in
Okay.
Cincinnati for 4 years. That's where I got my start as a television news reporter and anchor.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I knew you. I always knew you were in radio, but I don't know what happened when I found out. I don't know if I was in DC. I went to the Black Caucus one year, right before President Obama was elected.
Right.
And because I've always been a little bit political. I tell some people that don't really know, I said I'm really kind of like a beret and a leather jacket short of being a Panther, but I try to chill out. And I went there and you were on TV and I went ballistic. I said, "This is Bruce. We went to school together." I was just so excited. And I know I've reached out to you a couple times when I came to DC.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the Panthers. So, we're going to be jumping back and forth in this interview because you and I, we have some history. I remember when we were seniors, like at Shawnee back in 1968,
right,
and the riots took place. I don't know where you were, but I was out there in the
I was there.
Grand
I was
Avenue.
there.
Yeah, they were pulling up to Shawnee High School, with bands and stuff. Come on, we're going downtown, to protest, to march. And we got on the buses, we got on the trucks, and we went to march. And that was huge for us. That was huge.
Yeah, it was big. Well, it was like I remember. Aside from I did the open house demonstrating out in Iroquois Park area, and then I mean because every day after school I had gotten so involved because I'm following my brother, my older brother. So I would go to Queen Chapel to the meetings, and then I would go to the marches. I'd tell my mother if I'm not home by 10 o'clock, pick me up at Children's Center. That's where I'll be. But I was standing in the crowd on 28th and Greenwood when they had the big rally when the night the riots broke out. And H. Rap Brown was supposed to have been coming. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that who it was? Look, you know what started the riot, Bruce? I saw it. A little boy standing on the top of Little Palace hamburger stand, or it was called the Senator's Den. Georgia Davis, that was Georgia Power. That was her restaurant. He threw a Coke bottle down on the street. And when it broke, everybody thought it was a gunshot or something. And they dispersed like crazy.
Right.
And that's how that all started. It was really no violence, but it turned violent.
Yeah, that might have been the match, but what started it were the bad police community relations that led up to that. Way back before Black Lives Matter, I mean, they were stopping African American males, females, doing whatever they wanted with us, and most of the times, none of this stuff was reported. Who are you going to complain to? So relations were always bad, So. And there wasn't just one incident. There were several. I can recall we rolled down the alley and came out on Grand Avenue and what's the street that intersected with Grand right there around the corner? Is that 28? 16 to, I forget the streets. It's been so long. But we were on one corner doing whatever. Let's leave it at that. And I could look down and half a block away. It's National Guard. I mean, just 10 and 15, guardsmen deep. And at any point in time, they could have marched on us. Somebody could have fired, as they did in some other places, Kent State and other places, and hit any one of us because we were all out there in the streets, and you couldn't decide who was who. Going to liquor stores, clothing stores, grocery stores. It was crazy. It was wild. I was out there probably for all of a half hour, and I'm like, I think
I was out there maybe a little longer because I lived on Cecil and I had to navigate my way home.
Yeah.
And I got in the house and my stepfather was living. What are you doing out there? I said, well, because we were protesting, and I'm saying, don't just get over it. Well, they've got a curfew. Well, I'm late. Too late. But he wanted to kind of stop me from going. That wasn't happening.
Yeah. Did you see a difference between today's protesters, Black Lives Matter, and us out in the streets?
Yes.
What was the
We
difference?
were groomed. They have not been groomed. We were taught what to do when a police approached us, to sit down, cover up our heads, and if they wanted to arrest you, they were going to have to drag you. Don't get up or make them pick you up. Just things like that. But don't talk back to them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say anything. Just go. It was quiet dissent, a peaceful dissent, that we just said nothing. We sat down. When they approached us in an aggressive manner, we sat down.
Right.
Everybody sat down. Now, the kids are a little aggressive, assertive, and combative verbally, because they can say what they want to say now. See, we thought that we had to be respectful in a certain way so that they wouldn't hurt us.
Right.
But see how far that's brought us along. Not far.
Right.
Well, Bruce, listen. This is what I want to say. I've got, some of your classmates at Kentucky State are some of my closest friends. Roger Reynolds, Mike Lanier. You remember Mike Lanier? I think
Mike Lanier and
who was your roommate? That's what I want to know.
Who was my roommate? My freshman year, there was a guy from some small rural community. Lawrence Rideau was my roommate.
Was your roommate?
Crazy Lawrence Rideau from Chicago. Mike Lanier, our homeboy, came to visit me a few years, and we stay in touch on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
So he's doing quite well. He and Andy Williams from New Jersey were roommates, and so they both came through DC one time, and we hung out a little bit. I took him to the famous Ben's Chili Bowl, which is the iconic restaurant, here. Roger Reynolds, Skip, he's a fraternity brother of mine. He's Catholic. Right. And so I haven't seen him in 100 years, but Lyman Reed, Portia,
Lyman and Sandy live in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Portia
they
moved
came
back
through
to
DC
Cleveland
to visit, the African American Museum.
Yes.
And called me up. They came by the house. I mean, we had Greg Williams and his wife. Right. We had a great time. We were in the house for hours and just reminiscing and stuff. That was a lot of fun. So
tell me about WUSA and Bruce Johnson, the evening anchor. Tell me that story.
Well, there's a lot of story there. I am. Let's see. So I was there. I retired in December. Okay, after nearly 45 years there. They use
45 years at that station.
Yeah.
Wow, Bruce.
I've been television.
Stay 5 more years. You'd have got to watch.
Yeah, they better give me more to watch. so and it was time, but I got to do. I got to do everything. I mean, I came there, and for the first time in my life, I'm working in a big market television station with other African American journalists, women journalists, just a lot of diversity, a lot of talent. I mean, it's like going from junior varsity to varsity, and you don't know if you're going to cut it, and then you realize, at some point, I can do this, and you realize where you're from and that work ethic, and you realize that you're there representing your mother, your siblings, and all the others of us who didn't get these kinds of opportunities. So it was almost couldn't afford to fail, and which is to say it wasn't easy, and I didn't make mistakes, didn't have issues and that sort of thing, but you persevere. And I think that's one of the things you learn coming from Louisville. And kind of background and surrounded by the kind of people, that we were surrounded by, even though we started out very, very poor. I mean, we lived in kind of homes, and then we moved up, as I like to say, Kaiser Court near Chickasaw Park and that kind of thing. But, even when we were in the Cotter homes, during segregated times, not far from us was always those role models, the doctors, the lawyers, the educators and stuff. We had to go to the same schools, the movie theaters and the eateries and the restaurants. So we didn't have to look far to see our role models.
Well, we had everything we needed in our community.
We had everything we needed in our community, and we were safe. I mean, my mom wouldn't think anything of putting me and my younger brother at age, 9, 10, or even younger, on the bus, sending us to the East End to visit my great grandmother. We'd go to the movie theaters alone. I mean, and it wasn't call ahead, take your cell phone out, let me know every step of the way. No. There was never a phone call.
They weren't worried about you.
She figured if something went wrong, she'd hear about it. You know what I mean? Because everybody knew us and stuff. So, so when I went to DC, and I had gotten great training in Cincinnati as a reporter. I worked for this guy, this white German Catholic guy named Al Shadowcotty, who was a taskmaster. He was a wordsmith, just a great writer and an incredible reporter. And I got to watch him up close. How you become a great reporter. You develop sources. You learn to write. In my case, and in a lot of our cases as minorities, we had to learn to talk. You learn how to dress, and you had to
get rid of that Louisville dialect.
Yes, well, you had to learn how to turn it on and off. Because sometimes it would work for you, sometimes it wouldn't.
Look, so Natalie, let me tell you this one. Natalie Natalie Jones from Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes,
she used to tell me. I told her she was country. She say, JC, you got your nerve to call somebody country. You say up here, down there, and over there.
Right.
And I decided while I was in college that would never happen again. So I consciously made my speech improve because I wouldn't say those things. Even now that I'm back home, I get caught with the laziness, and it comes out real easy because everybody speaks the same kind of way.
Right. I think it's a comfort thing. I mean, my thing as a reporter, I was always about making the people that I was talking to comfortable. Okay. I concentrated on letting them know that I'm interested in your story. And probably the most important thing, I wanted everybody to know that I'm not here to judge. That's God's work. I am here to get your story and have you talk to me, and I will present your story in the best way that I can. And so now about that dialect, though, that's pretty interesting because I'm going to let you in a little secret if you didn't know this at the time. By the time I got to Shawnee High, I heard you say we went to junior high together. Well, no, we didn't go to junior high together. I went after grade school at Immaculate Heart of Mary Catholic School on 34th Street. Okay. I went into the seminary to study to be a priest. My mother and the priest put me in the seminary. So I left home for the first time in my life, first person in my family ever to leave home and go to Cincinnati, Ohio, Sacred Heart Seminary. I still remember the address, 8108 Beachmont Avenue. My mother had never seen the place. She had never interviewed anybody. Nobody had shown her pictures of the place. She was
just sending you to seminary.
Yes. So for 2 years, I'm up there with my little black self attending seminary school, which was a prep school for rich white boys for the most part, well-to-do white boys. And some of the parents would just put them up there to stash them, because they know what to do with them, that sort of thing. But I had to get smart really quick. You adapt, and adapting sometimes means acquiring the norm. So the Louisville stuff couldn't help me there. So I started adapting, okay? And that's how I dropped the Louisville accent over time. I started listening to white music, the Beach Boys, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And then I kind of lost myself in this culture. And it was good. It wasn't like I was pretending because, I mean, what do you know at 14 and 15? This is part of it. I never knew all this existed. So there's a lot of good stuff going on there, okay? And eventually, you figure out, after 2 years, well, I don't think I really want to be a priest because I don't think you can be a priest and also have a girlfriend back in Louisville. And I did. And so after 2 years, I left. But I even to this day, I carry that developmental stage, because think about it, at age 14 and 15, that's when young men and probably women too are deciding who they are, figuring out how do you negotiate going from child to teenager and young adult and that sort of thing.
Right.
So I brought that to Shawnee with me. So I kind of stood out a little bit. People would make fun of me, about how I talk, and sometimes I would turn it up.
Oh, I did.
Yeah,
I know I did, but you always sounded very proper, and and you liked it, because that gave you an arrogance, a little bit of arrogance, but
gave me
well,
arrogance.
to me at that time,
it allowed me also to fit in. It made me interesting. Okay, it gave me a story.
Very much so.
Yeah, so I got involved with some football and the players. I was in the theater group. And you probably don't remember this, but you and I were boyfriend and girlfriend for a short period of time.
I know.
You probably don't.
I know. I didn't know if you remembered. I said, I know you like me, Bruce.
You were a cheerleader. You dumped me at some point in time, but that's okay. I recovered.
Oh, I remember. That's funny.
So
it was
so Shawnee was good. And so after that, Kentucky State.
You were elegant. You were. Now I can describe you in high school that you were suave bowler before I really knew what suave bowler was.
Okay. Tell you what, that little time in the seminary taught me that. Now, when I came back to Louisville, Shawnee, and that was a period, where 67, 68. I knew I wasn't going to stay because I had outgrown Louisville. I mean, I'd gone to the wall. I seen there's another life. I didn't know where I was going. Yeah. But I eventually, after Kentucky State, and then of course, you go to Kentucky State, and you run into people from Newark, from Detroit, from New York, and you're on your own. You're growing up. So now and then you have incredible professors like Dr. Fletcher, Dr. Cheney. I mean, I can go on forever. These black people, it was almost.
They were no joke.
Huh?
They were no joke about your character and how you carried yourself at that school, because they would walk you to the Greyhound bus.
Absolutely right. It was at Kentucky State that I learned who Cassius Clay really was and where he got his name from. And then, I come to Washington, fast forward, there's a statue right there at Lincoln Park of Abraham Lincoln and the slave, and Abraham Lincoln's standing over him in a very, subservient, posture. And this guy, is probably a descendant of Cassius Clay, my Louisville, a homeboy and that sort of thing. But anyway, in DC, I quickly, not forgetting my roots, I was brought here to cover City Hall, politics. I had done that in Cincinnati. First African American to cover City Hall. It was a white bastion of just power and greed and making the laws and all that stuff. So I know how to do that, and I really know how to do investigative stuff and develop contacts. So I came to DC to do that, to cover the mayor, the city council, and blah, blah, blah. And one of the things I learned to do early on in TV is to not go to City Hall every day, because it's kind of boring. Press conferences and sitting there and all these budget hearings and all that kind of stuff. Although I learned how to write budgets and all that stuff from grad school, I'd go to the streets and get the story and bring the stories to City Hall. And then, after a while, after a couple of years, every reporter was doing that. They were hiring reporters who could emulate what I was doing, because we were killing them. We were by far the number one station, with an African-American woman anchoring the 5 o'clock news, J.C. Haywood, the first African-American anchor in Washington, Max Robinson, God's gift to anchoring, who was the first Black network anchorman. Oprah was right up the street in Baltimore. Her good friend Gail King was a reporter trainee under me. I mean, I was one of her mentors, and it just goes on and on and on. All the people that came through this place, and it's Washington, so everybody came through there. And then on some days, I could end up at the White House. I could end up at the U.S. Capitol. I could be in the streets. And then when they were convinced you could be trusted, you were good, and you brought value to everything you did, they started sending me out of the country. I mean, I'm this poor kid from Louisville, from Kaiser Court, and what is it, 1627 South 34th Street. I mean, I've been to Moscow, I've been to Paris, I've been to China, I've been to Japan, I've been to I've been everywhere. So really blessed, really blessed.
Isn't that wonderful? I mean, I share some of my life with you, because we're catching up with each other today. It's just a conversation. It's not so much I'm trying to be investigative about asking you the right questions. But like you, I've been able to see the world with my music. You know, I lived in Paris for 5 years. I've been to Hong Kong. I've been to Istanbul. Look, during the time right before they invaded Kuwait, and my Pan Am flight, and then you know how long ago this is, a Pan Am flight,
Right.
had the one I was supposed to come home on had a bomb scare. And so I called the airlines. I said, well, I need to switch to Delta. They said, oh, no, it's okay. You can get out. I said, no, you don't understand. I can't get on this plane. But I mean, I've been so many places alone. I mean, I worked in France, in the French Riviera. And I opened my door and I look and I said, wow, the French Riviera. I said, it's a damn shame. I have to see this by myself. You know what I'm saying? There's nobody to talk to, but I'm down there to do a gig and sing. But my exposure has made me very comfortable with maybe a lot of the rest of the world, like you.
So you need to put that in a book.
Yeah.
It's the reason why. It's the reason why. Okay, I've written a couple of books. Okay, so this is my third.
This your third book?
Yeah, okay. It's called Surviving Deep Waters.
Yes.
Not going to tell you everything about where the title comes from, but let me put it this way: Chickasaw Park, the Ohio River. Okay, that's where the title comes from.
Wow.
Something that happened and continued to happen while we were children. I'll start with that. But Deep Waters, obviously, goes a lot further than you know the river. It's life's lessons. It's overcoming obstacles, setbacks. I want to back up one thing though. About your voice, I remember when I first heard you sing, and I mean like not at school, Shawnee, but I think like at Kentucky State. I couldn't believe that voice was coming out of little Janis Carter. I mean, well, you had a voice.
I sang for class day at Shawnee.
Talking about a voice. So I mean, you know, when then you were so confident about your talent. You know, you left what? You left Kentucky State what, for a year to go sing professionally?
I dropped out halfway through my sophomore year.
Yeah.
Just for one semester.
You didn't drop out. You took leave.
I took leave.
Okay. You took leave because you went to try something else, came back and hadn't missed a beat. Y'all pledged on time. You graduated. I mean, not only can she sing, she's smart. You know, I mean, so I've been watching you. I've been following you. Thank God for social media.
Wow. You know, I didn't, and I never thought about pledging, Bruce, when I came to school, because I thought I was just too cool to be in a group situation. But when I came back to Kentucky State, I knew I had to go to school straight through to catch up with my class, so I could come out with everybody else. I said, y'all, you're not leaving me. And that first semester, I had learned how to study. I learned how to study so that when I go to play bid whist and dirty hearts in the grill and ping pong all evening long, that I had studied from 6 to 8 and after every class where I had a break, right? And that was the first time I made the dean's list.
How many hours did you have to carry? What's the most hours you ever carried?
18.
Right. Okay.
18. I carried full load from when I came back every semester. And I went to summer school.
Right.
So I came out with my class.
Right.
But what happened was when I came back to Kentucky State and I decided to pledge and I made the dean's list, that's when I said, I was hanging out with some Deltas, right? And they was like, JC, come on and pledge. I said, well, I did pull the grade point average this semester. You know? Right. So then that propelled me to pledge, which was a wonderful experience for me. I found out how to play that game really well. If I'm gonna get in trouble every night, then I'm gonna do something every day. They say JC from Louisville, itsy bitsy, teeny weeny, bip bopping mama from Louisville. That was my line name. But I mean, so this is my, like you, this is my Deltaversary. Is this your your 50 years?
50 years last year was my
Last
50th.
year. Okay. This is my 50th year.
Yeah, me,
So,
Dwight Carter from Indianapolis, Bobby Calvert from Louisville.
they called him
Bernard Grant, huh?
Dwight Carter passed away.
Yes.
They called him not
DC.
adult, DC.
We got him DC, and fortunately for me, he had come to visit me. You know, that summer before then, he was right outside of DC, and we got to see one another. Bobby and I, we haven't talked in a while, but we would keep in touch by phone, and you know how it works. You know, as a pig farmer said to me one time in North Carolina, he said something will always bring you back home, if nothing but death in the family. And unfortunately, normally that's what's brought me back, to Louisville, a death in the family. And so I haven't gotten back, nearly as much as I did like when I was in Cincinnati, that sort of thing. My mom died a few years ago. I came back. I had a sibling who died, a couple of years before that. I came back, and Muhammad Ali dies. I came back to cover the funeral. If not for the pandemic and COVID, I would come back for Breonna Taylor's story. I mean, she and I share the same birthday, June 5th.
Who?
Can you believe that? Yeah.
Who do you share the birthday with?
Breonna Taylor.
Oh, Breonna. Okay.
Yeah. So and a number of things, and that's amazing. Like so I was asking you about writing your book, and so we're talking about my book. And one of the things about my book that ties it together is a lot of the things that I've covered professionally have taken me back to where I was as a child. We mentioned the seminary, right?
Right.
Studying to be a priest. I found out many years after that, my best friend in the seminary, kid, from the New York area, was molested. And I found this out because I'm covering the sex abuse scandal, and I'm calling the 13 guys who were in my class in the seminary. Are you okay? You okay? Anything ever happened? Everybody's okay, except this one kid, he's not a kid anymore. He's an old man like me, but he says, I really don't want to get into it, but he let me know something happened. Then finally he called me when he found out that my book was almost finished, and he wanted to talk. And he told me exactly what happened to him, the details. And I put it in the book, okay? Because back then, they didn't have anybody to go to complain to. There were no lawyers waiting to take these cases and to sue the church and that sort of thing. So what he did after this happened, and it was devastating, he never had a relationship of any kind with a woman for 45 years after that. This happened to him when he was 14. He went to the rector, the guy running the seminary, and demanded a one-way ticket home. He called his parents and said, I'm leaving. He couldn't tell them why. It took him years to tell his parents what happened to him in the seminary. And he wasn't the only one. And he was molested twice by some upperclassmen, but then the ultimate, pedophile turned out to be a priest.
A priest.
Who was supposed to be taking care of him in the seminary. So that's in my book. Okay, that's in there too. Muhammad Ali's funeral is in there too. So it's
look at the breadth, the gravity of all the things that you've experienced. Like, did you ever imagine we'd be 70-some years old sitting here talking to each other? But thank God, by the grace of God, here we are.
And thank God for things like social media. Think of all the people that have reconnected, through social media.
Right.
Lots of people. You can reconnect with people, not even tell them you're reconnecting. You just look them up.
Right.
You don't want to be perceived as a stalker. But I've looked up a lot of both friends, and hopefully they're doing good. And you find out about the ones that didn't make it. Stuff. Right. It's grace. Right. You're an example of grace. Look at you, and you look so good. I mean. This is great. We are where we're supposed to be. That's the way I look at it.
This is how my husband, when he preaches, he says, God had a plan for us. He already knew what we were going to do and who we were going to be. We just didn't know.
Absolutely. It wouldn't have been there if we knew. It wouldn't be there. I mean,
in the journey, the mystery of it all, and how we've molded and by the grace of God come to where we are, to know what we know about ourselves, about the world, how to navigate. You know what I'm saying? This whole show came about, Bruce, because of Breonna Taylor's death, because of George Floyd. I've been so angry and upset that every time I watch TV and they're killing black folks like we are non-beings. I mean, we have no value whatsoever. So my beret comes out and I go get my leather jacket, and I'm angry about it. But then people start to say, "Well, now is the time to start having the conversation." I said, "Then I am going to facilitate this conversation, so we can maybe find some solutions." Because aside from singing, I've taught school, and I thought I was pretty good at it because I struck a little fear, and fear works, And I never smiled at my students for a long time until they got used to me. They knew I was just playing with them, but I felt like I have something to share with the 16 to 25-year-olds, especially those, because a lot of them are talented. Everybody's not meant to go to college. Everybody's not going to be a blue collar worker, So I'm saying I got out of I was catapulted out of Louisville by my talents. So let me tell them how you can be a singer or a rapper or a dancer, because nobody told me, but now I've got a blueprint, kind of, sort of, that you can do this if you put in the work. You can put in the work. So that's what I want to share with them. But the conversation that we're having is to find solutions so they can stop killing each other. I can't do too much about the police, but I'm saying we have to do things about our own children. And right now, Louisville's having a problem getting a hold on the death. All over the country, they're having a problem.
It's not just Louisville. I mean, homicides are through the roof here in Washington. But you're absolutely right. And I love how you pivoted from Black Lives Matter, police having the authority,
right,
to kill us, and getting away with it, okay, right, to what we're doing to one another. And then there's the whole health disparity issue. It goes on, right, and on and on. It's amazing we're not an endangered species, okay?
We are.
The thing you were talking about, though, and what I heard, and where we're going with this conversation is, it's an inside job. It's what we think of ourselves. It's what that individual thinks of him or herself.
Yeah.
You could drop 1,000 weapons on some blocks, Black communities, white communities, Latino communities. We pick up weapons, but we wouldn't turn and shoot one another. So why is it that when you do the same thing, because we're not going to stop the guns, okay? There's too much money in guns. It's kind of like the war on drugs, okay? You didn't stop the weed, you didn't stop the cocaine and all that kind of stuff. It's too much money in it. Same with guns. So why is it that some people take the guns and quickly turn on one another? It's an inside job. It's what you value. It's what you think of yourself.
Right.
When you are convinced you have no future, when you're convinced that you probably already outlived your dad, your brother and others like that, you don't value life. Okay. You expect, to be taken out at some point in time, whether it be by a cop or a neighbor or a friend or whatever. And the other thing has to do with, where are your values? Where do you get a sense of identity from? If you get it from your boys, who dropped out like you did, and they become your family and your support system, you're in trouble. You're in real big trouble. If mom and dad, if there is a dad and mom, and if they no longer have any influence over you, if you can't look to them as examples, and Janis, it's tough being a living example. Remember how we came up? It used to be, do as I say, not what I do.
Lord, yes.
I'm watching you. Mm-hmm. I'm watching you. You know what I mean? So we had all these crazy rules. We beat kids with whips, belts, and all that shit.
But just think, we came up with things that we, in turn, how many times have you said those things to your kids? Because you remember them. Do as I say, do. How come I can't do it? So-and-so's mama, let them do it. I'm not so-and-so's mama.
My thing, and not only did I not believe in striking my kids, and they can tell you, I tapped my daughter one time on the butt when I saw her clock her younger brother by 7, and you would have thought that I beat her. That was a one and done kind of thing. But I don't believe in corporal punishment, especially when you do it as punishment. I will beat you into submission. No. Right. I think that's wrong. I don't think that teaches us anything. I
but
really
you
don't.
know what, Bruce? You know what that did when they started to tell us, when the government got into how we dealt with raising our children? That didn't help us at all.
Right.
It didn't help us at all. Number one, when you go all the way back, when we started the welfare thing, in order for a woman to receive welfare, the man could not be in the home.
Absolutely right.
Put the brother out of the sister's house. Okay. Right. So now we got welfare and ADC checks, right? So the man's out, and now they tell us that we can't discipline our children.
I will go back on the discipline thing to, it started during slave time for us. Okay. The master just taking us out, beating us into submission, unconsciousness as an example to the others. Okay. Right. This is what happens to you when you don't stay in this path that I've given you as a slave. And we, in turn, once we were free, we carried that on. It was all about power. It was all about fear. Black men getting some booze, some liquor in them. You turn on your woman and you're beating her like the master, beat you. Seriously, we got to get real about that. We got to stand up to that. And we have to.
Those are conversations people don't want to have. Those little conversations, even the conversations about us killing each other.
Those are conversations we have to have.
We gotta have them.
We have to have those, or it doesn't stop. And I think those conversations are taking place, and we need to make clear we have made incredible strides given where we came from. And I'm not talking necessarily me and you. I'm talking about us as a people. Show me another group of people, that had to go through what we've been through. And every time we made these incredible strides through Reconstruction and everything else, Barack Obama and everything else, there was always this undercurrent waiting to pull us back, changing the laws, the rope-a-dope, the John Lewis voting rights bill, right? Yeah. It always happens because they get jealous. They think as though, if we're getting it, if we're gaining, somebody's losing. We're taking it from somebody else.
But that we're going to overpower them. Not that we're going to use our power for good. That is like we're going to use our power to overtake them or something. We're just trying to coexist.
I write about that.
If we just want to coexist. Now, if they can't understand why we would want to coexist, they talk about assimilate. I tell people all the time, I said, when they put us on those ships, we didn't think we was going to sandals. Right. They took us away from our whole culture. And now you don't want us to be a part of the American dream. And we've built it for you, right? But we can't partake. Give me a break.
I have I call it a sense of entitlement. I know others call it white privilege. And my thing is the right has taken that word privilege and used it as a weapon. It's kind of like, and then they take words like defund police, and that becomes a weapon that they can use to energize their base. Okay. But so I say, to my white friends and white people I don't know, because I write about this. And again, it's in the book. So I'm not hiding from this. I say, okay, you don't like privilege. Let's discard that. How about entitlement? You do have this sense of entitlement. Mm-hmm. Too many white people that if I don't have it, it's because somebody else got it. Okay. And if you got it, you got it with some help. You know what I mean? Somebody had a foot on the scale to help you. Where's the help for me? And
they want to take it back, like they're taking something back from you that belonged to them.
Right. We're not taking.
How did that happen?
The number, if that were true, our numbers wouldn't be where they are. We are at the bottom of everything. The pandemic helped prove the point. We were contracting the disease faster than anybody else.
Right.
Far faster and exceeding our numbers, our percentage of the population. We were dying from COVID in disproportionate numbers. Right. And it wasn't just because of our bad health and DNA. We were the frontline workers. We were more exposed than anybody else. We had the poorest healthcare system. I mean, all of those reasons. Now, they came around to realizing this and admitting this. And then they would tell us stupid things like, somebody in your house gets COVID, I need you to quarantine. Okay, that's fine if you live in a 6-bedroom house or a 4-bedroom house. But a lot of us live in multi-generational situations whereby nobody can quarantine. We share a bedroom. Where are we going to quarantine? In Israel, what they were doing, they were taking people out of the houses, the apartments where most people live, and they were putting them in the empty hotels downtown. They didn't have any tourism. Nobody's staying in the hotels. So they would put people, they were quarantining them in the hotels. Federal government was paying for it anyway. We were the last to do that. And I blame some of our Black leaders for that too, because they should know better. They should know better and not wait on white people to give them permission to do things based on our circumstances and knowing
we have to stop waiting on them to tell us what we need anyway.
They know where we are. They have our names. We're in every computer. You got to be taking the vaccines to some of our people who can't get out, rather than tell them to go on your laptop and make an appointment. You kidding me?
Who's got a laptop?
Exactly.
No, who's got internet?
I had one of my white friends tell me that when they were doing it in DC, go on your laptop, make an appointment. So she got word real quick, went on her laptop, made an appointment for herself and for her elderly husband. And she goes down to one of these social services agencies, to get a vaccine. She looks around and there are no people of color there. Any other day, it'd be nothing but people of color there. She calls me and says she's so embarrassed. Where are the Black people, Bruce? And I'm like, they don't have the laptops. They don't have the computers. They didn't have the transportation. You were first in line. She felt so bad. She left $500 a contribution to this place.
Wow.
So,
Well, Bruce, you've got to come home. So you're going to come home when is the book coming out? And give me some information because I've got a little banner that I can make here.
Absolutely, I'm coming home. The publishing date for the book is January 25th, which means you can get it before then. As a matter of fact, the book is already up live. You can order it right now on Amazon. It's called Surviving Deep Waters. If you do a search, Surviving Deep Waters on Amazon, or if you go on Amazon and put Bruce Johnson in there, my name comes up and you'll see the page. So
tell me what you want. Tell me what you want me to put on this banner. Just Surviving Deep Waters?
Surviving Deep Waters. It's by Bruce Johnson. Do the search, go to Amazon, to the bookstore, and you'll see it. He'll tell you what to do. Okay. And of course I'm coming home. The Northern Kentucky University, they are going to initiate a class in January based on this book. And they're going to use the book as a textbook. And it's a graduate history class. And they're doing research, and they're really digging deeper. It's a deeper dive into my family's research. Turns out we're from Pembroke, Kentucky, a place I've never been. It's down there near the Tennessee border. The Buckner Plantation is where my great-great-great-grandparents were slaves and stuff. And so they're doing research. We're going to go down there at some point in time with a production crew and probably do a mini documentary, that sort of thing. But so we're going to definitely, I'm going to be at Louisville. And the University of Kentucky put me in their Journalism Hall of Fame. Okay.
Wow.
Last year. So I was really honored by that. So I'll be spending lots of time.
That's coming a long way from what we thought about U of K when we were teenagers.
Remember when we tried to play them in basketball and we had Big E, Elmore Smith, and Travis Grant?
Right.
We wanted to play them in basketball.
Right.
We were winning the NAIA championships back to back, and they were up there in Kentucky, and there was no way they were going to play us because they would have lost.
Big E was just inducted into the Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame. And he contacted me, okay? Because I have a relationship with the Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame. Whether you knew this or not, that I am a co-founder of the Dirt Bowl.
What? No, I didn't know that.
My summer job, 1969, me and Ben Watkins, Central High School ball player, went to Jackson State. Ben and I were park supervisors at Algonquin Park, and we started the Dirt Bowl.
Oh my God. Wow.
So aside from, my physical education background still comes into play a little bit. When I came home, they said, Janis, didn't you start the Dirt Bowl? I said, yeah. They said it's still, we celebrated in 2019, 50 years of the Dirt Bowl still going on.
Oh my God. And I mean, are you kidding me? That was the event. I write about, I don't know if I didn't name it the Dirt Bowl, but I write about, what Chickasaw and Shawnee Parks meant to us, and weekends, and it was just a place. I mean, just describing it, and
Well, you know what, Bruce? I tell people a lot of times, we had a decent childhood. I mean, I can't think of anything traumatic about my childhood.
Same here.
I can't think of any, even going to Shawnee, that once the school was integrated, we didn't have racial problems at school. We got along with most of our white counterparts, and we were just as smart as most of our white counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
And
most of the history that we've talked about, I mean, that was going on around us. Now, my younger siblings, they were bused, when Louisville started busing, So, and I came back as a reporter from Cincinnati covering that. That's how big that was. But we were kept away from that. Segregation kept us away from a lot of that. You know what I mean?
Well,
it was going on, because when I left, when I went to Kentucky State, and then later on, when I started doing my research and everything, I learned about, a lot of what was going on in Louisville that we were shielded from. The prosecutor, the first female county prosecutor who was murdered and tossed
Alberta.
off of a bridge.
Miss Alberta,
and it goes on and on and on. Frankly, where we went to undergrad school, they were hanging people, from the bridges. Not that long before we got there and stuff.
Right.
My first wife used to tell us all the time, Madge Williams, you guys don't want to venture too far off campus. Okay, I'm telling you, this is still the South. And I took those lessons to heart.
Yeah, but you know what? You said something a little earlier about the kids not expecting to live long. I was told that when I came back home that our kids don't expect to live past 18. What a horrible thought. My dance teacher told me, she said, Janice, they're living like every day is their last day, because they don't expect to live any longer, because they're seeing so many of their peers die at a young age. I never ever thought about, I didn't think about growing old, but I saw a future. You know what I'm saying? And our kids don't see a future for themselves. That's sad. That's sad.
It's very sad. And what's also sad is that you come to the realization you can't save them all, but you come to the realization you got to do what you
got to save some of them.
Start with what's in front of you. Who's in front of you? I wrote a recommendation just today. Young guy who is from DC, tough neighborhood. The youngest of 6 boys, and raised by his dad. Okay, let's say it for the fathers who are hanging in there and doing yeoman's work. Raised by his dad. This kid now is a sophomore at Old Dominion University. Okay, down in Richmond, Virginia. He was president of his class his sophomore, junior, senior year in high school. He played football, baseball, and ran track. And I just wrote a letter of recommendation for him because he's pledging, into my frat. But we're going to go further than that. I'm going to make sure, report to me next time you come home for break, okay? Because I want to see you. I want you to see me. And I get back to some of the things you were saying. The hardest thing, being a parent and even a grandparent, and even just being a real person out here. And we don't learn this, immediately. It's to be a living example. They don't always listen to what we say. They hear everything, but they don't always listen to everything we say. But they do watch us. They do watch.
Sure, yeah, they're watching.
And I've had young people just stop us on the street who don't know us, and and they watch you work. They assume when you've been there for this long, man, you must have gone through some stuff.
Yeah.
And they start shaking their head. You don't have to get into details. Man, you must have gone through some stuff, And so, Bruce, and you have. You have deep waters.
Bruce, I want to say, look at the bottom of the screen. There's the book, Surviving Deep Waters. I should have made a capital W, by Bruce Johnson. You can get it at Amazon, right?
Yeah.
So that's going on the screen. Right. But I want you to stick around for a second. I'm going to take you off, and I'm going to close out this dinner segment of the evening. But I want to thank you so much just for being my guest today. I'm so very proud of you. And honored that you would, kind of grace the table with this meal that we had to chop it up and eat it up. this conversation about our lives and how we want to be impactful in the lives of others, because it's all about that as well. You know, to make somebody else's life a little better just by the things that we have learned. You know, I feel sometimes I'm a little stagnant because I don't get to share all of what I know, especially about the music business and how I was able to navigate. And you know, I think about sometimes when I went to Paris, I took French from Monsieur Papier at Shawnee. He was the French teacher.
Okay.
And I have met his children. And I said, did your father teach French at Shawnee? And they said, yeah. I said, he was my French teacher. But that stuck in my brain, so that when I went to Paris, I didn't know a soul. And my mother said, you staying? I said, yeah, I'm staying. I said, they like jazz singers. I said, I'm staying over here. I'm not going back. So I'm going to go someplace that I need, where I sounded like I could fit in, you know. But I want to say that I was so proud and elated to see you on TV that day. I watch you. I read everything that you put on Facebook. I know, I'm proud to say I know Bruce Johnson, you know. And I want you, when you get ready to come home, we're going to do something big. When you get ready to come home, we're going to have, I'll help you set up a book signing. I can get any place you want to get. I got a little juice up in here. So I'll use my strings to pull. Actually, Ed Hamilton called me today because he wanted to know how to get on to see your interview with me tonight. You know, so they know who you are, and if they don't know, they better ask somebody.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on. And I'm going to tell you, Beverly Johnson sent me a note earlier today. She said, tell Bruce we had a lot of classes together from Kentucky State. She ended up being a principal and has retired from Lyman T. Johnson Middle School. But evidently you had some classes with Beverly. And she told me to say hello to you. So I'm saying hello, Bruce, from Beverly. But this was just a joy. This has been a joy and a real treat for me. And if nobody else enjoyed this, I know you and I enjoyed it so much.
Absolutely. Okay.
So we'll stay in touch with me. Let me know how things are going. Hang around for a minute. Let me close out my show and then we'll chit chat.
Okay.
Okay. I forgot how to work things. I got so excited. Bruce Johnson. All right. Louisvillian. You know, when you're a Louisvillian, you are all of that, you know, because we always have been kind of, like I said, the spirit of Muhammad Ali just penetrated this whole city, that we knew that we could be anything we wanted to be. And several of us, even the ones that stayed here, ones that went away, they went out into the world and they conquered. So, you know, when you go and do good things, you know, God blesses you. It's just how it works. But that's my friend, Bruce Johnson, Shawnee. We were Indians back in the day. We're Eagles now. Shawnee's Eagles. They got rid of the Indian. They're Eagles. Kentucky State, we are still thoroughbreds. Bruce and I didn't talk about it, but it seemed like our school might be in a little trouble. I saw that yesterday that, you know, looks like funding sources or our finances are not in good shape. So we're going to have to look into that. Because we don't want that to happen. I think my 4 years at Kentucky State were 4 of the best years of my life to date. I set benchmarks for myself. Kentucky State, 5 years in Paris, Las Vegas. Now I've been married for almost 11 years. Who'd have thunk it? But on that note, it's dinner time. Guess who's coming to dinner? Bon appetit. Enjoy your meal. I'll see you on Friday. Take care.